I want to ruin something for you in the first 60 seconds of this episode. The calm parent you're picturing right now, the one who never raises their voice, the one who has it all figured out, they don't exist. Not as a permanent state and not as a personality type you either got or didn't. Calm isn't a trait. It's a rebuild. You lose it, you find it again. You lose it again 20 minutes later, and you rebuild it again. Every single day for the rest of your parenting life. And if you're waiting to arrive at calm the way you arrive at a destination, you're going to wait forever, and you're going to feel like a failure the entire time you're waiting. But that ends today, not because I'm handing you a system that makes the hard moments stop happening. Honestly, they won't stop. But by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly what's happening in those moments, and you'll have something to do with your hands and your breath the next time it happens, which for most of you is going to be tonight. I'm Dr. David A. Palmer. This is the Rewired Collective. Let's get into it. Here's a belief I want to pull apart because almost every parent I've worked with over many years carries some version of it. The belief goes like this. Once my kid crosses a certain line, once the yelling starts or the shoe gets thrown or the door slams, it's already too late. The moment is lost. All I can do now is survive and hopefully clean it up after. I want to challenge that because it isn't true. And believing it is costing you more than the meltdown itself. Here's what's actually true. There isn't a point of no return. There's a point of no return for that strategy. Big difference. So if you're trying to reason with your kid once they've escalated, yeah, the door is closed. The part of the brain that processes logic and language and consequences can't be accessed. It's not being stubborn. It's just not available. You could offer the most brilliant, well-reasoned explanation in the history of parenting, and believe me, I've tried many times and failed. And it will bounce off a nervous system that's in survival mode because language processing isn't what the system is built for in that moment. So when parents tell me things like, nothing works when she's like that, I honestly believe them. Nothing they were trying worked. But that's not evidence the moment was unsalvageable. That's evidence they were using a tool built for a calm brain on a brain that had already left the building. Now, this matters. Why? Because of what it does to you internally. If you believe the moment is lost, you stop trying to help and you start trying to survive. You get louder, you get colder, you disengage, or you escalate right alongside them. Because what else is there to do if the moment is already unsalvageable? But there is something else to do. It's not just a talking tool. It's a body tool. Now, I'll come back to exactly what that tool is in a few minutes. But first, I want you to understand what's actually happening underneath the behavior, because once you see it, believe me, you can't unsee it, and it changes how you interpret everything your kid does moving forward. So for years, I've sat in teacher-parent meetings. I've been in plenty of IEP meetings, principal office conversation, where a child's behavior got translated into a character judgment. They're just being defiant, manipulative, disrespectful, attention-seeking. And here's what I started noticing instead. And this really reframed everything for me. Behavior isn't a report card on a kid's character. It's a language. And most kids who are struggling are only fluent in 5 words. And I call these the 5 Ds. And I want to walk through them with you because you'll likely recognize your own child in at least 2 or 3, and recognizing them changes how you respond. So let's start with the first one, quote unquote, defiance. That's the no, the refusal. It looks like disrespect, and it often is a nervous system saying, I just don't have the capacity to do what you're asking, and I don't have the words for that, so I'm giving you the only word I've got, no. Then you have quote unquote disruption. That's the interrupting, the noise, the physical chaos in the room. It looks like they're derailing things on purpose. But often it's a nervous system discharging energy that it cannot hold quietly, the way you might tap your foot in a stressful meeting or shake your knee, except louder and less socially acceptable. Then there's quote unquote dodging, avoidance, not starting the homework, suddenly needing the bathroom the second the worksheets come out. It looks like laziness or manipulation, but it's often a prediction. Their nervous system has learned that this task ends in failure or shame, and avoiding the task avoids the feeling. Then you have quote unquote detonation. This is the one everyone usually thinks of first, that full-on meltdown on the floor. Looks like an overreaction to something relatively small, but it's rarely about a small thing. The small thing is the final drop in the cup that has been filling up all day. And lastly, there's disconnection. This one gets missed the most because it's usually quiet. It's the shutdown, the blank stare, the kid who goes silent and unreachable. And it looks like they don't care anymore. And it's often the opposite. It's a nervous system that's run out of options and gone into a kind of protective hibernation because engaging feels unsafe. Now you're asking, why does this matter for me tonight? Once you can name which of the 5 Ds you're looking at, you stop asking yourself, how do I punish this? How do I control this? How do I make this stop now? And you start asking, what is their nervous system trying to tell me, and what does it actually need right now in this moment? And let me tell you, that single shift from decoding character to decoding language is one of the most useful things I can hand you today. It's more useful than any script because here's the thing, scripts run out, but this lens doesn't. Okay, so if that's what's happening in them, what's happening in you at the same time? Well, here's where we're at. The piece that gets left out of almost every parenting resource I've ever read. And it's the piece I think is about the most important now. And I've seen that 30 years in. Because when your kid dysregulates, your nervous system doesn't say neutral, does it? It's not designed to. You're wired to pick up their state the same way you'd flinch if somebody near you suddenly flinched. Their storm walks directly into your body. So now you've got 2 dysregulated nervous systems in one kitchen. And whichever one is louder in that moment usually wins, which means the calmer, more reasonable version of you, the one you actually like, doesn't get a vote. This is why yelling at your kid to calm down has never once worked in the history of parenting. You cannot hand someone a state you don't currently have. So if you're not regulated, you have nothing to co-regulate them with. You're just adding a second storm to the room. Now, I want to say this plainly because I think it's the most freeing sentence in this whole episode. You may want to write it down. Your job in the hard moments is not to fix your kid's nervous system. Let me say that again. Your job in the hard moment is not to fix your kid's nervous system. Your job is to regulate yours first, because your regulated state is the actual tool, not a nice bonus. It is the tool. Which brings us to the thing I promised you a little bit earlier. The body tool, something to do with your hands and your breath right now before the words even matter. So this is what I call the 90-second reset. And I want to actually do it with you right now out loud at podcast speed, so it's in your body before you ever need it in your kitchen. Now, 90 seconds isn't arbitrary because practitioners who study stress physiology point to roughly that window. Some say a bit less, some say a bit more, but the pattern holds. A stress response crests and starts coming back down on its own in about 90 seconds if you don't add more fuel to it. So you don't have to meditate for 20 minutes. You just have to work this through 90 seconds without making things worse. So let me give you 4 moves. Center, connect, and 2 more that come after. But let's start with the first 2 because they're the ones you do alone in your body before you say a single word to your child or teen. So center. This is grounding, right? Feet flat on the floor if you're standing, or grounded in the chair if you're sitting. You want to relax your jaw. Most of us carry the whole argument in our jaw and in our face and never even notice, not even aware of it. You drop your shoulders away from your ears. because this isn't symbolic. Your body is sending your brain information right now about how much danger it should assume it's in. And a clenched, braced body tells your brain, stay on alert. An unclenched body tells your brain, oh, we might actually be okay. So let's do it together. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 6. That longer exhale is what actually signals your parasympathetic nervous system to downshift. Let's try it one more time. Ready? In for 4, hold for 4, and out for 6. That's center. That just told your body, your vagus nerve, that everything is okay. And you just change your own physiology in about 20 seconds. So what do you do next? After center is connect. But before you say a single corrective word, you connect. Now this might be hard, but it's simple. It could be a hand on the shoulder if they let you. It might be just getting your body down to eye level instead of hovering over them. And it might be one sentence like, I'm right here. Not calm down, not you're fine, just I'm right here. And here's why this order matters more than anything else in this episode. If you correct before you connect, you're teaching them every single time that your presence is conditional on their compliance. Now, is that what you believe? Probably not, but that's what gets taught if the order is backwards. Now, these 2 other moves, affirming what they're feeling and meeting the actual need underneath it, come after the 90 seconds, once you're both actually available for them. We don't skip ahead. First 90 seconds, just center, connect. That's the whole job in the moment. Everything else, affirming what they're feeling, meeting their nervous system need, all of that in the moment can happen after this 90 seconds. Now, notice something. You just did this sitting still, listening to the podcast. Feels different for the first time you try it mid-struggle. With the noise and the adrenaline and maybe an audience if you're in public, but that's fine. It's supposed to feel harder the first few times. That's not failure. It's just a new pattern being laid down over a much older one. One tool, not a whole new identity by tomorrow. Just this one, tried once this week. Now, I want to leave you with something that might be one of the most important ideas that we've shared today. And it's the one I wish someone would have told me like decades earlier. You're going to mess up. You're going to get it wrong, probably tonight. You're going to raise your voice when you meant to stay steady, and you're going to skip the connect step and go straight to correction because you're exhausted. It's been a hard, long week. But here's the thing nobody tells you, that the repair afterward does more rewiring than the perfect response would have. Let me say that again. The repair afterward does more rewiring than the perfect response would have as neuroscience. So kids don't need parents who never rupture. They need parents who come back and say, you know what? I really got loud back there. That wasn't about you being bad. It was about me running on no fuel there and I'm tired. So can we try that again? This sentence teaches more nervous system safety than the perfect 90 seconds ever could because it teaches something more important. Relationships survive rupture. That's a lesson they'll use for the rest of their lives in every relationship they'll ever had. So, if you listen to this episode and still have a rough night tonight, that's not evidence that this doesn't work, so don't send me a nasty email. That's just today, Thursday. So, go back in afterwards, repair. That's the actual move there. So, let's see now, 30 plus years as a teacher, as a parent, as a specialist, as an administrator across general and special education. And I'll tell you the thing that never gets old, watching a parent's face the moment they realize the meltdown was never a referendum on their parenting. That's relief every time. So just try the reset tonight once, not because it's homework, but because you'll feel the difference yourself. And that's worth more than me telling you this works. And if you want more of this, the specific language, understanding for the hard moments. The toolkit built around this whole way of thinking is something I put together that walks through it all. And it's the behavior guide. You can find it on my homepage right there at the top of the page at drdavidapalmer.com. No cost, no catch. You just get it. And if you're in the Coachella Valley here, there's more. Starting in September 8th, we are running a in-person parenting series called Roots Before Results and partnering with Integrated Learning Institute in Palm Desert. It's only open to 40 adults. We're going to serve a meal every session at 6 p.m. We're going to have childcare provided. We have scholarships available. So you'll also find the details on the website, or you can go to store.drdavidapalmer.com/roots, or you can just give me a call at 209-800-4637. So here's the one thing that I want you to do. Get that behavior guide right now. drdavidapalmer.com, also in the show notes. It's free. So until then, I'll see you the next episode, and keep rewiring.